If your ex has been accused of domestic violence multiple times, what's the impact going to be on your potential custody case? My name is Goldman. I'm the director and founder of Goldman and Associates. Our firm has a primary focus on family law issues here in Michigan, and today we're going to continue our video series, which is designed to educate and inform the public, so please subscribe to our channel. So the question really has to do with multiple instances of domestic violence and the impact of custody, but you got to understand one thing. Even if it's not multiple, if it's a recent domestic violence, the court can take that into account and look to see whether or not that should impact custody. As you may know, the only real thing that impacts custody is what's in the best interest of the minor child. And there's about 12 factors that the court uses to analyze best interest. One of them is the presence of domestic violence in the household. So if there is a recent relevant incident of domestic violence, the court can take that into account. If there's multiple incidents of domestic violence, the court will surely look at that and say, well, wait a minute, this is a pattern and practice that exists in the household, and we have to determine this factor in favor of the victim. Now, does that mean that the victim is necessarily going to get custody because of that? It could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Remember, if there's 12 factors, domestic violence is 1 out of 12. Now, it's possible that the presence of domestic violence may trigger some of the other factors too, because it may cause instability in the household. It may cause the child to, let's say, confide more in the other parent because of the fear of domestic violence. There may be other factors that are triggered, but in and of itself, one of the 12 factors isn't necessarily going to weigh out in favor of the victim, because the court has to give weight to these things. And the court might feel, yes, domestic violence is there. Yes, it's a heavy factor. However, the perpetrator is in a program. The perpetrator, domestic violence was fueled by alcohol, and now the person is no longer using alcohol. The person's in AA. The person has had anger management. In other words, the court might look at that and say, yeah, it's a factor, but it's being addressed, and therefore it shouldn't be as heavy a custody factor and weigh into the decision as much as it might have been before. So when you look at domestic violence, either one instance or multiples, the court's always going to look at what's the impact of this? How's this going to change parenting time? Does it have to change parenting time? Can we put in a supervisory restriction that'll, shield the situation, protect the child? Another thing the court's going to look at is domestic violence, yes, but domestic violence against who? Was it done in the presence of the children? Was it a fight that occurred between spouses and, the police got called and somebody got charged? But was it a mutual affray that both parties were involved in? Was the domestic violence something where neither party actually called the police, but a neighbor did, and somebody got carted off when there were actually no witnesses? So, in other words, the court's going to have to look at it very carefully to see what impact. Will it have an impact on custody? Yes, it will. What's the degree of impact? What's the weight of the impact? That's going to depend on a case-by-case situation. If you have any questions about your case, reach out, and we'll be glad to help you out.